Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ha, Rocha, Chodash, Ma'amah. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS and their elders. Double honors to my elder apostle, Aharawan Banyasharala of the Lions Den Camp, here in Jacksonville, Florida. Shalom to the sincere Akim, pushing his truth and sincerity around the four corners of this earth. I'm Nakar Harab Banyasharala, coming out of the Lions Den Camp of Yasharala here in Jacksonville, Florida. And not today I'll be coming out with a lesson. And it's on this article. I seen it. I was looking for a lesson to do. Salakia. And I seen this article that I had saved. And it says here, it says China to send Iran aircraft carrier killing missiles. And that's pretty much in itself. Now, I'm not going to read this whole article. It's somewhat long. It ain't too long. I may or may not read the whole article, or I might just go to the main points. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. It says Iran is close to buying a supersonic missile from China that could destroy American aircraft carriers. Now, this is what the article is saying. So don't come with the tomfoolery, YouTube with, oh, you say no. The article is saying this, not me. I'm just reading it. But let's continue. It says officials from the Islamic Republic are in advanced negotiations with Beijing to purchase the CM-302 cruise missile, which is designed to damage warships, according to Reuters. It says the news agency cited 6 sources saying that the negotiations, which began 2 years ago, have sped up after the 12-day war between Israel and Iran last June. Of course, when you on tomfoolery and you around here poking at people and doing stuff, of course you're gonna make people speed up a retaliation and or response or reaction towards said entity. Let's continue. It says the devices are not believed to have ever been used in combat, so they probably just now getting them ready. Let's go. It says according to their manufacturer, China Aerospace Science and Industry Corporation, they can travel up to 4 times the speed of sound. So Mach 4. This the specs right here. This little thing right here, it says China. This the specs of what it is. It says flight speed Mach 3, but as you can see down here, it said Mach 4, or 4 times the speed of sound. But let's continue. It says according to the China's aerospace industry corporation, they can travel up to 4 times the speed of sound, so Mach 4, carrying a quarter of a ton of explosives, and can conduct zigzagging evasive maneuvers. I'm starting to think that some of these articles are written with AI, because that's not how you spell maneuver. But let's continue. It says in the final phase of the flight, to confuse the ship's defense so it can maneuver and go around gunfire or artillery fire. I say that because a gun ain't gonna hit that, because that's moving that forward. Let's continue. It says the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is currently stationed in the Arabian Sea of South Iran, while a second carrier group, the USS Gerald Ford, is also approaching the region and was photographed in Crete on Monday. Did a lesson on that a while back. They showed it. It says it is not known how many missiles Iran wants to purchase, or when they might arrive and become operational. The thing about it, those things are already operational. Those are armaments. They just have to probably type in the code, get some systems or whatever hooked up, and get everything, the relay and the firing system, all that, and then they ready to go. Arm it with whatever megaton or kiloton of TNT, which is explosives, and boom, there you go. But let's continue. It says the U.S. is amassing the largest concentration of sea and air power in the East since the Second Gulf War, as Trump threatens Salakia, in an effort to enforce restrictions on its nuclear and ballistic missile programs. It says The loss of even a single ship would be a historic humiliation for the U.S. and probably politically disastrous for Trump. Of course, of course. You know, he's consequential. Let's continue. Uh, and it would be a devastating, horrible, and embarrassing loss. Yes, that's what happens when you start stuff with people that's not bothering with you. You know, you co-signing. You know how back in the day, Jake. You know, we're gonna use Jake. Homeboys and cousins is, oh yeah, man, that nigga tried me such and such and such and such. Then your homeboys and cousin, whatever, don't even know what's going on, but they co-signing. Then guess what? They run up and get flatlined, or should I just say flattened? You know, and of course, actual unaliving because you're running up on somebody else's battle. The Lord tells you not to be surety for a stranger, even if they is your people. Hear the conclusion of the whole matter. But let's continue. Let's get back. It says, although the White House appears keen to give negotiations with Iran a chance, the U.S. is also thought to be delaying a military strike in order to further build its missile defense in the region. And that's possible. It's possible. It could be just stalling, waiting. But the longer they stall, the more powerful Iran becomes. It is what it is, and they already about throwing hands anyway because they've been throwing hands with the first of the nations for for years, and we know who the first of the nations are if you're in the know. Let's continue. It says Trump's top global general, also like the top's general, uh, uh, warns against war with Iran, and it says here the terminal high altitude area defense, the THAAD system, is designed to take out high altitude ballistic missiles. Although Patriot, although the Patriot batteries and satellite images show more of these have recently been deployed, are capable of firing a variant of targets that target low altitude cruise missiles. The CM 302, which is an export variant of the YJ-12 family of supersonic anti-ship cruise missiles, approaches its targets just above the waves. So I'm assuming that they probably gonna have some kind of they depending. If I'm not mistaken, Babylon, it's brigandines like it is its army or it's probably got some kind of laser guided, whatever. But let's continue. Like it tracks any fast moving, we'll say, missiles or stuff headed towards the carrier. But let's continue. But it says these missiles they believed about have a range of 180 miles. And it says how the missile work. It got it right here, but let's continue. It says Reuters reported that talks to buy the missile entered into its final phase last summer. Iran sent a team of senior military and government officials to China. This included Masoud, however you say that, Oraye, Iran's deputy defense minister, the outlet said. One security analyst, Danny uh, Citrin Citrinowitz, a former Israeli intelligence officer, kind of figured that. Intelligence officer said these missiles are very difficult to intercept. It's a complete game changer if Iran has supersonic capabilities to attack ships in the area. I keep my hands sad, but But let's continue. It says China, which opposes the Western military intervention in China, in Iran, Salakia, sold significant quantities of weapons to the Islamic Republic in the 1980s, but then tapered off support in the 1990s under international pressure. That's international pressure because Babylon was still, we'll say, what the saying is, Babylon was still in its heyday of power, even though it had been declining since the 20s. It really started declining uh, in the 60s when this truth came out. That's when it really started declining then. But America still had that power back then in the 90s. Not like now though, but let's continue. It says while hosting Masoud Pezeshkian, the Iranian president, for a military parade in Beijing in September, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, said China supports Iran uh, in safeguarding sovereignty, territorial integrity, and national dignity. And that was said. It says, meanwhile, Iran's Revolutionary Guard conducted ground force exercises in southern Iran and Gulf Islands on Wednesday using what they called new combined tactics and modern technologies. That's what's going on. This is like my elder said. They're fighting a cowards war. They shooting missiles at each other now. Ain't nobody running up face to face. You know what I'm saying? They shooting missiles. They button. It's like they button mashing now. Like when you playing somebody on a video game and all they doing is mashing a whole bunch of different buttons. They don't really know what they doing. But they just mashing the whole. They button mashing. They're gonna be hitting buttons. They're gonna be uh 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 logging in trajectories and targets and then pressing buttons and the missiles gonna go where they supposed to go at. This is in the third major majority in the third majority military display in a week as Tehran simultaneously negotiates with Washington. Well, little Satan ruined that, really and truly. So it is what it is. So it's probably gonna be some proverbial hand throwing, i.e. the button mashing, you know, shooting some missiles up. But let's continue. Let's see. It says state. The ground force exercise. Okay, this is okay. Yeah. This is talking about the ground force exercise. And, I'm just going on read down. It says the state television broadcast footage showing missiles, drones, and rockets being fired at intended targets, Salakia, during the drills, which were centered on the Medina headquarters on the IRGC ground forces. The commander of the drill said the exercises were planned based on existing threats. Well, there's one existing threat over there right now, so they're training for that threat, and we know. But let's continue. It says state television reported that a new missile system that was recently added to the IRGC ground forces was tested during the exercises. The IRGC also announced the appointment of the Saeed Mohammed Hosseini, a brigadier general, as the new commander of the Saberan Special Forces Brigade. Mr. Hosseini, whatever, previously commanded the 110 Salman Farsi Special Forces Brigade and has extensive operational command experience. It says Trump is reviving gunboat diplomacy. This is the ground force exercise. I'm gonna just say the ground exercise is to follow two other major military displays. Iran conducted uh, uh, live fire drills in the Strait of Hormuz last week, temporarily closing parts of the critical waterway, though through which 20% of global oil production passes. And all they gotta do is just close that down completely, and that will f up everything. But let's continue. And let's continue. I'm gonna shut up. It says Iran and Russia also conducted joint naval exercises on Thursday in the Gulf of Oman and the northern Indian Ocean. Separately, students, okay, the protests and all that Wednesday and there you go. So we just seeing what the Lord said was gonna happen. A sound of battle is in the land. The Lord is getting his weapons of indignation ready. Which just go to where we at. Go back to it, I should say. Because I was there first. Yeah, see, Jeremiah 50. And again, verse 22. A sound of battle in the land and of great destruction. Verse 25. The Lord Yahweh hath opened his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord Yahweh, God of hosts, in the land of the Chaldeans. So the sound of battle is in the land. Is going to be a great destruction. That's going to hit Babylon. And the Lord is going to sweep this place. He's going to completely take Babylon and sweep it with a besom of destruction. East to west, west to east, north to south, south to north, however you want to look at it. Big Satan is going to be burned away by Yahweh Bashim Yahshua. But the Lord has opened his army, and what is in his army that he's going to use to bring judgment to the earth this time? These ICBMs. These are the weapons of the Lord's indignation. This is his work. And it's going to come down in the land of the Chaldeans. Chaldea, just another word we could say for Babylon. You could say Adawam. You can say Idumea, you know. So this is going to happen. So this is why we see these nations steady building more and more armaments, steady building more ICBMs. And if they're not building, they're purchasing. They're doing business. Last point, Joel chapter 2, verse 10. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. So there you go. They're beating their plowshares into swords, meaning they're arming themselves. They're making weapons for war. They're turning their pruning hooks into spears. Long range weaponry. A spear is a long range weapon. It's just handheld. The arrows, so like these ICBMs are considered arrows in the scriptures. And these nations that were once looked at as weak or just didn't have exactly what they needed, now they're saying they're strong. Look at Korea. Look at China. We see in Iran. We see it. So this is happening. And ain't nothing no man can do about it. This is the work of the Lord, and this is will, and it will come forth, and it will continue to happen. And with that, shalom.